Hi, welcome to episode 2 of Stitch Party of One. I want to thank everyone who sent such kind thoughts and comments my way last on my first Flosstube. I'm still stumbling, yes. My first Flosstube last week. It really meant a lot to me. I really liked sharing with you guys, and I spend a lot of time alone. I don't get to share too often, so again, thank you for the encouragement, and here I am. And I'm happy to report that I actually have two finishes this week. I finished my 2 canvas pieces that were almost done. These could have been done several months ago, but Darlene had to actually get a sewing needle and sew the corners. Yeah. I like to stitch or embroider, but I do not like hand sewing. Now, what I did do, just as a short recap, like for this one, this is an 8x8 canvas for a 6x6 finish, which leaves an inch all around. It's wrapped in scrapbooking paper. And anytime you're going to do these finishes with scrapbooking paper, you have to make sure they're small enough that a 12x12 piece of scrapbook paper will fit. In addition to that, I have 2 layers of felt, and the piece itself is wrapped around non-acid mat board and quilt batting. And the corners are stitched tight. You stitch from the outside into the corner and pull it tight, opposite ends. And I used Elmer's Craft Bond to put it together. I'm still debating on whether it's strong enough. It's holding okay. Once I got them done, I put them under weighty things that had books and whatever. But it still feels like it still feels iffy. But I wanted to use something light that I could reposition, and this fills the bill. If it's not strong enough, then I may have to change out. If it does work, I gotta get a big can. So those are my finishes for the week. My works in progress, I did no work on Ice Skater Girl. No work at all. But I did work on the Dampy sod. And I'm going to explain to people who have never done this before. I'm going to give an idea of how my thought process worked. As I said last week, I was planning to use the hills out of this picture. And then I realized that that wouldn't work because my sun is rising. It isn't midday. So what I did was I did a few sketches, various landscapes. And I got to share this because this is so funny. I had my humps going on while I was doing these sketches. It's not even a song I listened to, but yeah, my humps, my little mountain lumps. Anyhow, earworms. Who knows? And I wanted to work in the date, and I actually worked in the date the same as the chart. I don't think I'm breaking copyright by showing a date. And then I got out my 10 to the inch grid paper, and I made bone chart. I marked demarcation lines for the gradients. At first I had greens. I said, okay, no, wait a minute. If the sun's coming up, the mountains aren't necessarily green because the night is coming off of it. So it has to be at least deeper, if not blue-green. And that didn't work. That didn't work for me. But this is what I ultimately wound up picking. I don't know if you can see that from here. Let's see. But it's the $8.95 because I've got the book. $8.95, 3345, 3346, and 3347. If I'd thought of this before, I would have already picked them out. So sorry, so sorry. And I got to work. And this is how far I've gotten. All right, baby. And on the demarcation lines, as it goes up into the next color, I've got a couple lines in between of blended, aka tweeted. Bad stand, bad. Blended or tweeted colors as they switch to the next lightest color. So yeah, I want to share a couple things. These are just opinions, and they're not meant to offend. But I noticed there are a lot of comments about people drinking, and I'm like, okay, people, I'm in an 8x8 room with 3 or 4 really bright lights and a computer running, and I like it. I mean, if somebody's got their morning cup of coffee or something, it feels like I'm just sitting there having tea or coffee with them. But apparently people just want the juice. They just want the meat of the subject and nothing else. A body needs water and caffeine, but I've already had my caffeine today. Also, 2 things that I like, but I don't like, which sounds pretty odd. One is, and no hate, I don't really care for Q-snaps. They're bulky. I like them for smaller projects, but they're heavy and bulky, and it's hard for me to hold them, and they won't fit in any of my frames, my holders. Now, I'm looking at possibly getting, I can't think of the name of it, of course, one of those metal frames from overseas. But, and I'm saving my pennies for that, because they'll hold Q-snaps. And the ones that are made, like my K Creation baby base, they're made more for scroll rods or hoops. They're not made necessarily for Q-snaps. I like them because it's quick off, quick on, quick off, and you don't have to go through all the screwing, but they're just so heavy and bulky, and none of my stands will hold them. So that's my only gripe. And I know some of the ladies in my stitch group are much older than I am and have arthritis in their hands. They can't get it apart. you know, to move the material without help. And so you got to think about these things. Another thing that I both love, don't love, are pincushions. Consider this one. And you're saying, well, that looks awfully flat. I lost my needle in this one because I was threading multiple needles at once and putting the empty ones back on here. I lost the needle and I went to look for it. An hour later, I had 18 cross-stitching needles and 3 sewing needles. A lot of pinpricks. They were all in here. Yeah. I still love them. They're decorative, they're cute. The emery is indispensable. I've also got a really large strawberry emery. And this one I love because I've always had these, but a nice lady came into our Northern Virginia Stitchers meeting. Her name was Jasmine T. Genus. I think it's Genus. If I say it wrong, I apologize, Jasmine. But she had a green pincushion, and I said, where did you get that? I said, if I'd seen one, I would have had one years ago because I love fried green tomatoes. In the summer, I have 2 plants, and so they'll fertilize each other, and I will literally have fried green tomato sandwiches every single night. And the next meeting, she came up and said, I walked into Joanne's, and she said, I felt like it was kismet. She said, I just happened to walk past the Oceans, and their biggest life was a green tomato. So she brought it for me. So bless you. I love this thing. My sisters are so jelly. This is a Fons and Porter. Fons and Porter. Why do I do things backwards? This is a Fons and Porter quilting quilt. And the thing I like about this is it's big. It lays flat. It's got all the colors. I mean, green is my favorite color, but so is blue and lilac and orange and yellow. So, not only can it hang, so you could put a weight on it, put it on the, a fob, put it on the couch, but in the center, which is usually where I put my needles, it'll only go in that far. Yes, I also have another decorative one that is a little Chinaman, all sitting around the big centerpiece. And it's got like cardboard inside. You can't, there's no place to even put your pins. But it's adorable. I have no idea where it is. But, love them. Don't. Love this one especially. And this one. I still have some time. So I thought I would go over some of the things that I use for stitching and finishing that I couldn't live without. And I have quite a long list, but first and foremost, my floss buddy. This is a little box. It cost about 99 cents. You put a little cello sponge in it, and you dampen your threads with it. Now, I'm the only person in my stitch group that dampens threads. And they teased me about it, because before I found one of these boxes at the cat show in PA, I was just carrying one around in a damp sponge in a baggie. Yeah, I had no class. But I found the little boxes, and I thought, finally. So I love these little things. I like to dampen my floss because all thread has nap. And if you've ever tried to stitch from a kit or something and had trouble, with it knotting and stuff, that's because you're using, I hate pre-cut floss in a kit for one thing, just saying. But if it's knotting and stuff, you're using it from the wrong end. Floss goes, the nap goes a certain direction. With this, you dampen the nap down. It helps your stitches lay nice. And when it dries, it fluffs right back up. Easy peasy. I love this thing. The other thing is my magnifying lamp. Please excuse the dish of bell. This is just something I made just to see if I could. And it worked. And I don't drink Crown Royal. Well, actually, I would. But I can't afford Crown Royal. Some lady said something about a Crown Royal cover for hers. This is an older, real old magnifying lamp. This is a really old unit, but I can put it above my head when I'm sitting in the couch in the living room. It gives me a real good light. And then if I need to check something, I just yank it down, or I can put it in front of me and just, So this was a gift from an acquaintance, and it's proved invaluable. My apologies if the cut doesn't come through quite as well as I'd like. I'm just working on editing now, so who knows how well that'll go. My portable lamps and magnifiers, a given. My K's Creation baby base. This is a very nice setup. You can put it on your lap. You can drape it over a table. Also on my list is the 2 pounds or 4 pounds of river rock that I use for a ballast if I'm putting it on a table. It's not, I'm thinking I should have gotten the larger base because with large projects you can see it's not quite connecting there. And as with all these wood ones, when the screws eventually loosen and it goes, but this is much better than my other stand. I've got one of the stands from Walmart, and usually the only way it'll hold something, especially a large project, is if I put it in catty corner, and then you've got to position the stand kind of wonky. Otherwise, it does tolerably well. But I do like the baby base a lot better as far as portability and functionality. My half-size ironing board, because who wants to pull up a full-size ironing board to iron something that's this big? Come on, people. I have a chair with handles here. I just lay the ironing board across it, throw the iron on top of it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. My Olfa mats and my cutter. I always have my Olfa mat ready. You just never know. And my cutter's right behind me. My fold-up cutting craft table, which is right behind me. As you can see, it's a higher height. It folds down to 14 inches wide. It's 36 inches, 3 foot wide this way, and when it's opened up, it's 70 inches, and it's like stomach height instead of hip height. I got that when I worked at And I'm not looking at the camera again. Darn. I got that when I worked at Hancock Fabrics. Because I loved the cutting tables. I loved cutting at the cutting tables. They were just so perfectly height. And so I took the opportunity I had. My brother's Simplicity 8220 sewing machine that I bought in 1987. I think it's 87. And my portable Janumi Mini. And last but not least, pipe cleaners, cotton swabs, and toothpicks. These are sadly overrated. For example, a standard one is perfect for cleaning your feed dog. I have a brush, but these work much better. These can get into the nooks and crannies and get all the dust bunnies out. And never underestimate pipe cleaners, cotton swabs, and toothpicks. There's a joke about pom-poms and googly eyes in there somewhere. But that concludes this episode 2 of Stitch Party of One. And again, thank you for all the nice comments and the support on my first video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you like it well enough to stay with me. I'm thinking of a few other things to go over. But that's it for today. I hope you have a great week, and I do hope you'll come back and join the party. Bye.